Them vision drills, huh? Yeah, how's it going?
I just definitely like the idea of doing them closer instead of I'd been doing quite a few of them at different distances. And so it was much more noticeable change when I brought them in. And then the pinhole glasses for cheating, for starting to notice the areas where I can like read or where letters are blurry. So it's been
So,
this vision
uh,
game's been fun.
yeah, so for everybody that's watching and isn't aware, tell me how you're using the pinhole glasses. Because I was thinking about that this morning as I was wearing my own. I was like, I should maybe throw it out there.
Um,
Explain it.
well, I guess my experience just in general with pinhole glasses were before I even got into the neuro world, it was this idea that you could retrain your eyes. So the very first time I ever put on pinhole glasses, it was like really wild to me because if I looked at something close and then I looked at something far away, it was like binoculars zooming in and not zooming in. And then I get introduced to the neuro world of visions and pinhole glasses and how they can reduce threat for some people and they can be beneficial. And then asking more questions, it was like they're like crutches for kind of the looking at something close and looking at something far. Um, as well as, when you're looking at something within an area that it's like flexing the muscle of the eye to be able to like see more clearly. So that is like a background. How I'm using them currently is looking at different things from a different perspective and then trying to have it where it's something that I can read though. So holding something up and then the comparing of if I'm holding it here, at what point is it blurry? And then putting on the glasses and then retesting and seeing it not be blurry after having it be blurry. So that's what I have recently been playing with. Um,
Gotcha.
and even just doing that little bit, it's interesting how it strains the eye a little bit. Like that was something my eye wasn't used to doing. Like that was a new flex.
Yeah, so the pinhole glasses, which there's a video of them in the inhibition section of the neuro course. And that's kind of part of what they do. Well, probably the main thing they do is that they cut out like 80 to 90% of visual information. I mean, they're almost like totally blacked out except for these tiny holes. So it cuts down on a lot of sensory input. In that way, it allows your brain to like get rid of the noise and focus a little bit better, which can help to clarify your vision with them on. And as you said, they were originally developed for vision correction for myopia because this guy in Czechoslovakia couldn't get a hold of the glass that he needed to make corrective lenses. So he developed these, and they have like a convex shape, a little curve, so that they actually kind of focus the light on the retina. Um, because of that convex shape, they focus the light on the retina, which allows your um, in kind of a similar way, it allows your brain to get rid of the noise and to not have to deal with so much sensory input that it can focus. And you'll oftentimes get a pretty big jump in your visual clarity just by putting these on. And so if you wanted to wear these and do nothing else, well, if you only did these, the prescription, quote unquote, would be to wear them for like 20 minutes twice a day for 8 weeks. So for anybody out there that's doing the vision training program, you can absolutely use these in addition to all your vision drills to help speed this process up. And what I like to do is put them on first thing in the morning, and go for a walk. You get your 20 minutes in, you go for a walk, you can work on your peripheral vision while you're doing that with these on. And it's just to me an easy way to get in some time with these. And when you're walking around in nature or really walking in any environment, especially outside, um, because of the different stimulus coming from all the different objects that you can see in your view, um, it's a little bit more exposure or frequency training, um, of all the other skills too, peripheral vision, near, far, saccades, all the stuff that your eyes are doing while you walk through the world. So that's a cool little trick. And what I thought you were originally talking about with these on is actually doing all your vision drills with the pinhole glasses on, which is a great idea. Especially if vision is threatening to you. Like if you're more of a bottom up person and vision, your eyes tend to contribute a lot of threat to your bucket, then going straight after like 10 minutes of vision training may be like way too much, especially like sitting in a seat or just standing in place. You might get fatigued really quickly. You might start to see some threat, clenching your jaw, eyes getting tired and watery, or pain increasing. That's not good. We don't want that. So, in addition to like using bottom-up tools, so using some proprioception of some kind while you're doing vision training, like just marching in place, doing some hula hoop hip circles or pelvic circles, even some just simple hand figure eights or holding an isometric contraction can be enough to mitigate that, to give you enough proprioception to where your brain's like, all right, now this is more of an integrated thing. So it's a little bit easier. Um, Beyond that, using an inhibition tool like pinhole glasses, which is a pretty intense inhibition tool. Remember, it cuts out like 80 to 90%. But even colored glasses or like some occlusion glasses, if those are your jam, even an ab belt or an earplug can help your brain get rid of some of the noise and allow you a little bit more capacity to do some of the vision training. So both are great ideas. Number one, using some inhibition tools while you do your vision training, and also just using the pinhole glasses randomly throughout your day. 2 times 20 minutes is like ideal. Um, will help improve your visual clarity, both long and far sightedness, long and far, near and far sightedness. Good thought, Joe. Thank you. You're muted, but I think you're talking to someone else.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely was using it for other vision drills. You're right. That was like I said, it's kind of the evolution of where I'm at. But I didn't necessarily realize that the twice a day, 20 minutes was the prescription side of doing it. And then I've been doing the walking saccades.
Hmm.
So adding in the pinhole glasses kind of as like supporting that peripheral sounds like very intriguing based on what you just said all there too. So again, thank you.
Uh-huh. Um, so it's worth a test. Yeah, because I mean, yeah, as you know,
Assess and reassess.
assess and reassess because there comes a point when there's too much inhibition, and your brain's like, I need more information. This is too much.
Well, that's
And that, go
in
ahead.
times in the past when I've tried walking with them, uh, I haven't done very well, but it's been on really uneven ground. So when you said that about being in nature, I was like, well, I've kind of tried that out here in the desert, but it doesn't work very well for me. But I haven't tried it just like on the street.
Yeah, it might go better on the street. It might go better on a street next to a fence or a wall where you've got something you could actually reach out to, or at least like a line that you follow. That makes
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, so you're just all you're doing when you're doing this is you're just playing with different levels of safety and predictability in your environment.
Because the wall on one side could be beneficial and the wall on the other side could be threat,
Sure.
potentially.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Depending on the person, depending on their eyeballs and how they work or don't, whether they're getting both eyes working or if they got visual suppression. Yeah. They, it all counts. And everything you're doing, you're just trying to dial back dosage or dial it up, dial it down, find the minimum effective dose for you in an environment where you can challenge yourself, but you have enough safety and predictability to where you're not going to increase threat too much. It's kind of it's the whole thing. And really, like it comes back to um, flow states because in my mind, everything comes back to flow states. But that's the golden rule of flow. And if we want to use another word, we could use the golden rule of neuroplasticity and growth and positive adaptation is the challenge skills balance.
Question for you. I mean, you
Yeah,
say that about states, everything comes back to flow states. And I guess in thinking deeper through what you mean by that, that's like the emotional flow cycles that we all go through. So if we understand a particular state, then we would understand where we're at in going through the cycle.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that's what you're saying then is going to be the most beneficial, like that awareness for this is the cycle that we have. And then if you have the awareness for where you're at in those cycles, so now you have an awareness for your entire cycle and each piece of it, so you can apply the different neuro tools.
yes. When you are aware of where you're at in the cycle, you can apply different tools to move you through them quicker or to sustain parts of the cycle, like a flow state, longer. And you can like these are just words, right? I mean, a flow state is a specific and measurable state of consciousness that is separate and different than our normal waking consciousness, right? And it's where we achieve our peak performance. But um, the cool thing about it is it's ubiquitous and it can be achieved in any activity, anything at all. So, that's why I believe it's so important as a goal, I guess, is achieving flow. Because when flow is the goal, then the outcome doesn't really matter. It's what you're doing doesn't really matter. It's all in service to a in some ways a higher purpose, which is just enjoyment and fulfillment in any activity that you're doing and being in the present moment, right? But through that, you reach your peak performance and you continually grow, and the outcome kind of just takes care of itself, which is great. But that being said, like you can use whatever words that pertain to whatever skill or task that you're trying to accomplish. Um, I had one in my head when you were talking, but now it's gone. because I went on that tangent. But it's like if we want to use the neuro drills in the different parts of the flow cycle, in the first part of it, like which is the struggle phase, let's just use a an easy one like a sport or a workout. Um, I want to, you know, live in that peak performance state for as long as possible. And in just a regular workout or in an athletic pursuit, I want to stay in the zone and maintain my stamina and endurance and strength and power for as long as possible. The first part of that cycle is always going to be the struggle phase. We can call that maybe the warm up, right? Where you have to like get your nervous system ramped up to a point where you actually like reach a point of frustration and um, a point where you have to essentially choose to fight or flee. This is like the mountain biker at the top of the hill. This is the surfer about to, paddle in. This is the skier, like at the top of the moguls. Um, this is the speaker about to get on stage. For those guys, their struggle phase is pretty short already because it's like it's go time. It's kind of baked in, but it works for everything. Like a writer that is sitting down for his daily pages and is like gathering research and trying to hold all these things in his mind. He reaches a point of frustration, trying to figure out a problem or how to write this thing or whether or not I'm going to actually go down this hill. And you have to choose to fight, right? And we've talked about this before, like that is where most people fail. That's where most people quit. They don't choose to fight. They choose to do something else. It's like, nah, that's too hard. I'm gonna go do this other thing. And so they miss out on the next like phase, which is the boon, which is the gold, which is the enjoyment and the actual flow state itself. So anyway, you got to choose the struggle and choose to fight. And the neuro drills that help with that are like the upregulating, like let's get up and get going, integrated, like sympathetic driven type drills. For vision drills, saccades, near far, right? Pencil push-ups, like anything that's quick, anything that's like driving up sympathetics, cranial nerve number three, that kind of stuff. Helpful for that. Then you have a little bit of a release, and then you find your flow state. Okay, now that we're in the flow state, we're feeling really good. Our strength is awesome. Our power is great. Our stamina is good. We want to maintain this for as long as possible and fight off the fatigue that's, going to be all things in the right place. Fatigue is probably going to be the number one um, performance killer for most people. If it's pain, that's not ideal. We want to take care of the pain, right? Um, and for some people, it is pain. Like people that have runner's knee, right? People that have jumper's knee, people that, you know, um, experience some kind of pain, dizziness, nausea. That's they're all threat responses. Can we agree on that? They're all ways that the brain is trying to slow us down to protect us, right? When those things come up, we fall out of our flow state, and then we usually will stop the thing and then go into a recovery mode. If we want to maintain that flow state, then there are drills and tools that you can use to prolong that, to fight off the threat, the pain, the fatigue, whatever, to maintain it for longer. Um, and, just off the top of my head, it's basically anything that is going to allow you to maintain high levels of those neurochemicals and um, prolonged threat, like prolong the appearance of threat. So inhibition tools can be helpful. Um, Sometimes it's upregulations. A lot of times it's fuel related. So oxygen and glucose, maintaining proper fuel. You're doing anything you can to just like play this fine dance of turning up and turning down different dials in order to maintain that state. For each person, it's going to be a little bit different, but big ones to look at are fuel for sure. And then visual tasking and fatigue, because a lot of fatigue comes from visual fatigue and processing fatigue. So, um, for example, if you know somebody has a vestibular deficit and they want to maintain flow states longer, you're going to try to, as much as you can, balance out their vestibular function as they go through a skill, um, in order for them to not reach the point of processing fatigue. So integrated drills, simple vestibular drills that keep them balanced, or even cranial nerve drills that are near to the vestibular nuclei. So just some random thoughts about flow states and maintaining them, but I don't even know how we got there. We were talking about vision training, and then it just spiraled out of control. But hey, it happens. Catherine, hold on one second. Let me answer Zoe's question in the chat, and then we'll go to you. She just asked what makes a person not use their peripheral vision. Well, you don't really, that's kind of a hard question. You don't really ever stop using your peripheral vision. There can be times when threat increases and we're not using it a lot. Um, and it can shrink, like your peripheral awareness can shrink. And that can be very threatening if I can't see what's going on out here. But your peripheral vision is mainly controlled by the rods that live in the in the retina, um, and they sense a lot of movement. And your brain is kind of painting in a lot of the picture, especially like the color and what it thinks it's supposed to be there based on the movement of your eyes around the space. Okay, so it's kind of mapping that environment. Your peripheral vision mainly picks up on movement in those in normal sight. However, um, when you gaze fixate on a target, your peripheral vision kind of goes quiet because you're not updating the map, and so your brain just fills in the background. And that's why when you do like the Troxler effect, those pink dots and they disappear if you can fixate your gaze. Um, Over time, if somebody has, let's use this example, somebody has like a vestibular deficit, to where they don't feel real safe in their environment, and so they walk with a really wide stance. And it is pretty common for people as we age to lose some of the peripheral vision in this lower field. And so because that is kind of threatening because I can't see the ground, they start to lower their head and look at the ground. And then over time, it starts to shrink out here because they're not using that either. So it's not that they don't like cognitively, they don't stop using their peripheral vision, but because they're not in environments or over time because they don't um, keep up with the vision training or get themselves in different like stimulating environments, it kind of shrinks. It's kind of a use it or lose it type thing. So you just have to consciously like put yourself in those situations and actually train it, and it won't go away. So I hope that answers your question. It's not that they don't use it, it's that they are not aware that they need to.
It does help. Can you hear
Okay.
me, Brandon?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Um, I guess I'm not conscious of using my peripheral vision.
Yeah.
And so I'm going through this is making me more conscious. And I'm assuming that's going to make me safer.
Yes,
Uh-huh.
that's a great way to think about it.
Hmm. It's just wonderful exploring this.
One of the ideas, though, around making it safer is
Hmm.
is the longevity people who stand on the shoreline and look out over the ocean and they can just see everywhere, the
Mm.
peripheral, everything all out in front of them is just
Mm.
wide open safety side of it. And then a lot of it where Brandon was talking about, we just don't use it, and the threat's not the threat's in front of us. I think a lot is like the screens, whether it's video games or it's the TV, or there's all these things that are jetting in front of us on this screen. It's
Hmm.
not stuff that's in the wild that may be happening out and around us that we have to be worried about anymore because we're sitting in a living room and we know that we're safe with the wall on one side of us.
Hmm.
That's a really good point, Joe. I think that's probably one of the main reasons why our peripheral vision is starting to decline. And
Yes.
somebody might not be using it is because they're staring at a screen all day. They're not out like you are right now, looking around in your environment and actually you're not consciously really thinking about it, but your peripheral vision is working, right? So, but it may have shrunk over time. So it would behoove you to start to train it and to be more aware of it, and you can improve it. So good job. Keep it up. You're doing great. Catherine, let's go to you.
Yeah, sorry I got in late, so maybe you're gonna repeat yourself. I just heard that jogger's knee could be a side signal of visual training. Is that what I get? Like I already have jogger's knee like long time ago, and my knee is signal is coming back.
Okay.
So I just wanted to just clarify what you said. Is that possible that since I had it, I was 19, I did a lot of physio, chiro, whatever, and I sort of got around with it, but now it's starting to talk again.
Okay.
So I just wanted
Um,
to know visual training because it's linked to vestibular because I have a
yeah.
vestibular issue that I'm working on. But I just wanted to ask you what the visual training might do.
Um, well, okay, so it's usually related to one or all of the following things. And it's either visual related, vestibular related, or an integration problem. And they all are integrated, so they all kind of work off of each other and they work together. If you already know that you have a vestibular issue, it's likely that that's probably the issue. And a helpful analogy is to think about your vestibular system just as you are standing or walking around the world as processing at speed level number one, normal speed, just walking around the world. And it may do okay at normal speed, but because there's a deficit and because it has to work a little bit harder to process, because one side is saying one thing and one side is saying a little bit different, when we start to increase the speed and we move up to level 2, level 3, because you're running, we have to process a lot faster. And because there's so much more processing that has to happen because they're a little bit out of balance, then your vestibular system itself will become fatigued. And when that happens, because it doesn't have any other way to give you a signal, knee pain is a really good way to get you to slow down.
Okay.
So the vestibular issue is probably, if you already know that you've got a major issue there, then that's important to train. The visual stuff, because it's so intimately connected with the vestibular system, um, is good to train. And if you find deficits there, to work on those Like that's really powerful and important and will be helpful. Because your visual system is also helping your vestibular system to know where we're at in the world and our position in gravity and our posture and all that good stuff. A
Mm-hmm.
ton of information coming through there. So that will help. And then integration of the three systems, including your body, also really powerful. Like if you already know you deal with like sensory mismatch type issues, um, like if you already have sensory mismatch kind of symptoms and issues that are prevalent or show up, whether a situational mismatch like on a treadmill or stationary bike or on a boat or a car, okay, that's one. Or if you think you might have some kind of like systemic sensory mismatch, like I mean that's Um, the ones that come to mind are like general anxiety or transient pain or I think breathing issues, chronic breathing issues tend to come maybe from that, which is related to the anxiety part. But I say learning difficulties, but I really mean just like attention difficulties, focus difficulties, distraction management stuff, um, anything where like frontal lobe, front of the brain stuff is sometimes challenging because the back of the brain is hogging so many resources. Okay, so if you know that you deal with that kind of stuff sometimes, there's a good chance that you do have some kind of systemic sensory mismatch. And that also, when we start to crank up the speed of play, that processing becomes overwhelming. And so again, jumper's knee, runner's knee, these weird transient pains that are unexplainable by our, traditional biomechanical models. Um, this is where like neuro really takes the torch and, runs with it because um, the mismatch of the sensory systems and specifically vestibular and visual issues are usually big contributors to those type of things. So keep doing what you're doing with the vestibular stuff. Like keep your focus there. The visual stuff, maybe it's more of a supporting thing, and especially doing like integrated visual and vestibular drills like VOR, bouncing, shifting, infinity walks. Um, you know, are you more of a bottom up or top down person, Catherine?
Come on.
Bottom up.
Mm-hmm.
So doing your vision drills while you're walking, um, or just marching in place, or like holding an isometric contraction, or compass lunges. Do you know how to do those?
Yeah.
Yeah, so um, those would be really, at least that would be a starting point for the vision drills and stuff. But I would say keep after it with your vestibular stuff. Keep hammering that stuff because that's going to support the vision and vice versa a lot.
Can I ask another question?
Sure.
Um, so I joined the challenge, the Vision 30, is it 30-day challenge?
10 weeks. It's like
10
3
weeks.
million days.
Um, I
It's a
just
long, but
I, I just want to clarify what to do. It's to take drills, do 10 minutes 3 times a day, and do drills in each categories, right? The biomechanics and the neuro.
yep, that's the basic premise.
Okay.
And it's really kind of a template and you can mix and match. I mean, you personally have a lot more experience and knowledge, so you've got more options that you can choose from.
Okay.
Those ones in those categories are just kind of um, basic starter drills. And you can, I mean, for anybody out there that doesn't have a ton of vision training background, um, with the drills in there, those are chosen specifically for um, how powerfully they will affect your visual clarity. So they were chosen for a reason. Those are like the higher payoff ones. Um, but you can go a lot deeper into a lot of those. Um, So yeah, but the basic training is 3 times a day, 10 minutes. If that's too much, you can break it down. You can do 5 minutes more often. Try to, if you can, do a total of 20 minutes to 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But again, if that's too much, and if your main focus is vestibular right now, but you just want to improve your vision as well, I mean, you can do a little less. It just means that it's going to take you a little longer to get the changes that you want. And that's okay. Because the last thing you want is to like increase your threat and have it affect your running, right? To where you're creating a situation where now you're getting the runner's knee again. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's not productive, right?
Yeah.
So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, finding a spot that works for you. Um, as far as like, winning the prize at the end, it's just I don't know. I might have to be doing a session with everybody that does it because I don't know how we're gonna pick the winner. But basically, it's like if anybody can tell me how much they've improved and tell
Mm-hmm.
me how much they've trained, that's basically how I was gonna choose. But we'll see. Cool. Thanks for the questions. Um, I would love to invite Monica on if she is
Oh,
available. If
uh,
not,
yeah,
hey,
I
Monica.
am here. How are you?
I'm doing well. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, same. My
Yeah,
first time listening in.
yeah. Glad to have you. If you don't mind, would you give us like a 60-second, I'm Monica, this is what I do, this is why I'm here?
Sure. I'm Monica. I'm an athletic therapist in Calgary, Alberta. Luckily it is no longer minus 30 degrees Celsius, so I'm pumped about that. I'm here both for personal reasons and professionally. I've been integrating neuro work um, for about the last almost year, and I love it. And one of my biggest draws for why I wanted to do that um, was, I guess, my own concussions. So I'm still um, trying to manage my concussion recovery. And
No.
unfortunately, I think I missed the last person. I missed her question and answer, but I have a feeling it was very appropriate for me as well. So,
Um, cool. Thank you so much. Yeah, we're glad you're here. Man, there's I got so many thoughts in my head right now for you. Um,
I have tons as well.
yeah. So you're in good company. I mean, I think I think quite a few of us on this call right now have had concussions and you know, actually everybody on this call is are neuro practitioners. So
Okay.
you're definitely in good company here. And I'm actually um, currently in the process of building a concussion and vestibular rehab therapy course for physical therapists here in the States. And so what that means for you guys is I would love to do probably like a workshop or training at some point on concussion recovery. And I'll probably stick with post-concussion syndrome because most of us are not seeing. I think actually, Monica, are you still working like, on the field and on the
I'm
court?
I'm not directly doing field work right now. I do still get some from the athletes that I used to work with. They're all grown up and have kids now. And so when their kids or their kids' teammates are getting concussions, I'm getting them within a couple days. So not on field anymore, but in that first um, early time where I can help guide them. But then other than that, like I have ex-football players that are now we're getting to the neuro and post-concussive stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, the majority of our work in here and stuff is going to be um, a little bit more past the acute phase.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so yeah, that's what I'm planning to do. Is a whole thing on post-concussion syndrome. So that will be in the near future. So look out for that. And then I forget what other thing I had for you in my brain, but it'll come back. But right now we're the question, I believe, was it Catherine's question about runner's knee?
Yeah, I had to quickly dip out there, and then when I came back in, you guys were talking about um like visual and vestibular, and I mean those two systems on me are horrible.
Okay.
So from where I jumped in on the answer, it seemed like there was probably some useful information there.
Yeah, the basic premise was that transient pains like that that seem to come from nowhere, especially that are I can't come up with the word right now because I haven't had enough coffee today, but that are predicated on like a certain amount of time that goes by before they show up, like runner's
Mm.
knee, like jumper's knee, like even like motion sickness would fall into this, but like transient pains that come from seemingly nowhere after a certain amount of time, and especially if they're speed related. So runner's knee is a perfect example of this. It's like, and with your vestibular system and your visual system too, but your vestibular system is incredibly important here because it's like if there is a deficit on one side and we have an imbalance, and each inner ear is sending kind of different signals about where we are in space and what's going on in our environment, that may be fine as somebody just walks around the world in like gear number one. At the normal speed, they may get around just fine. But as soon as you start to increase the speed and they go up to gear two or gear three, because the brain has to process a lot more because it's trying to figure out what the heck is going on between these two and to make sense of them, that processing just eats up so many resources so quickly that the vestibular system itself becomes fatigued really fast. And the brain is like, I don't know what's going on anymore. This seems
Mhm.
really unsafe and unpredictable. So because I don't have any like pain to give you up here or any other way to really tell you that something is wrong, I'm going to give you pain in your knee because that is a really good way to get you to slow down or stop what you're doing. Dizziness is also a really good way. So sometimes people will have this pain and then push through it until eventually they start to get like dizzy or nauseous. Then they're definitely going to sit down.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's like the basic premise of what we're talking about and it kind of falls into the category of sensory integration too, um, because we were talking about vision training and how that might support something like this. Because Catherine personally has a vestibular issue, and she's already been working on that for a while. And so our question was like, how is the vision training going to support that? Is there specific stuff I should do or not do? And my answer was, it should support it. Right? Like, your vestibular issue sounds like it's probably the more prominent issue. But as you go through your vision training, if you discover deficits, um, trying to find a way and a dosage that is right for you to train those deficits up in your vision will really support your vestibular rehab as well.
Hmm.
Both of those, if you are training both of those at the same time and trying to figure out deficits like the most important thing like, in my opinion, is that you need to reintegrate all of that. So you need to be doing integration type drills. So, really easy ones that are in the library and the community are stuff like saccule bouncing, and infinity walks, two of my favorites, because they involve a visual component, a vestibular component, and a proprioceptive or movement component. So, training the systems individually is great when you point out the deficits and where they're at, but reintegrating them often, because it's like every time you train something up, it's like we got to start fresh and we got to integrate it. So, and walking is like the greatest integration exercise ever, right? That's that's the bee's knees. So anytime you're doing drills, like making sure you're walking in between or after them. And if you want to really up the ante, like picking a target and gazing at the target as you walk towards it, same thing coming back. So, um, yeah. So off the top of my head, that's what I got for you right now. But
Perfect. Thank you.
yeah, thanks for being here and glad to have you. Joe, what's up, brother?
Monica, I think Brandon's being super nice and generous in his response there. And at the same time, when I did the mentorship that we all did, at the end of the Q1 training, they said to me, you should really work with a personal trainer one-on-one. Like you've had a lot happen to you. And I thought, oh, that's great. You know, I paid a lot for the program. Like I'll figure it out. And I just got all the way through the mentorship. And then I started to figure things out a little bit. So having had a concussion and knowing the troubles that somebody goes through thinking for themselves and they're trying to reestablish what their brain thought patterns are and all of those things, it's like really cute and nice that Brandon said all of those things, but you're really, really going to benefit if you work with the trainer one-on-one rather than trying to just go through and figure this stuff out by yourself. That support system is going to be huge for you.
Yeah, no, that is, I've come to that conclusion as well. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, and we should all take Joe's words to heart because, like, I have a neuro coach too. Like, I think everybody should, especially neuro practitioners, because as neuro practitioners, we get lost in our own way, and we all have blind spots as an athlete or a practitioner. So, having a coach, a business coach, a neuro coach, a relationship coach, right? It's just I think it's the most powerful thing that we can do for ourselves in our own growth. So, Sandra,
Hey.
what's up?
Hello. I a little out of it this morning, but I made it. And you were talking about concussions and it reminded me, not remind me, I was gonna ask anyways. Um, a friend of mine's son just had a severe concussion 2 days ago and went to the
Hmm.
hospital. And right now they don't want anyone to contact them because they're overwhelmed. But I was wondering things to do right away in that
Yep.
situation. He's got severe memory loss. He doesn't remember like the past few days at all.
Okay.
And and yeah, I was and then who do you think would you be a good person to send him to in the acute
Uh,
stage? Okay. I
yeah,
don't know if they'll follow through, but at least I can give a recommendation.
sure. And I'll send you a couple of resources.
Oh, great.
Yeah, to look at. And there are some things that you can try. And the research is pretty clear now that even with an acute concussion like that, getting back into activity that is not increasing symptoms too much. Like increasing symptoms a little bit is okay, but it's a dosage thing. Um,
Yeah.
and you have to be really careful, but it's like basically it's light aerobic activity that they can handle. That's like the key because in this stage and going forward, he's going to have this energy crisis going on in his brain as it tries to heal. So getting in some oxygen, simple things like bag breathing, and then like fuel is going to be super important, and a lot of inhibition, especially if he's a bottom
Yeah.
up. So those are the things off the top of my head, and then the light aerobic exercise. So maybe it's a hat and sunglasses, and he goes for a walk around the block, and that's all he can do, and that's great, right? But we want to get we want to get them doing something pretty quickly. Like the old thought process of like go in a dark room and just don't move and rest
Yeah.
is bunk. Like, it's not the best way
Yeah.
to
My concern is here on Maui, they're in like not on the latest research, put it nicely. Yeah.
yeah. I gotta run to the mentorship right now, but
Okay. What's the best place to contact you? What's the best
um
way to contact you?
in school, or you can like school, WhatsApp, or text me. I'm pretty good at all those three these days.
Okay.
So probably school. Like hit me up in school.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
And Catherine, like said, no screens. That's hugely important as well.
Okay.
Okay. All right. I gotta run.
Thank you.
Sandra, I'll talk to you soon. So good to see you. Monica, thanks for being here. Joe, as always, pleasure. See you.